Hi y'all, CJ here from Agate Enchantment and Rock Wizardry. I hope everybody's staying safe and staying healthy during this whole coronavirus craziness. One nice thing about this time is you have a chance to polish up your skills, and it's really showcased in this next video. Denny is really coming into his own as a rock polisher. I really hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel.
Okay, check it out. This is a microcrystalline agate nodule that we're working on today with macrocrystalline top. It has bigger crystals on the top than it does on the bottom. Yeah. Okay, we're going to start off and we're going to run this just inside and on the bottom and take care of some of those deeper craters. The 180 grit disc. And the reason why we started at a 180 grit disc is because if we'd started any lower, it might have tore up, especially when we started working on that macro top. Alright, moving right along, here we go. We've working that bottom bit there. Now that video is times 5. In other words, the speed is sped up 5 times. Okay, working the bottom. Oh, look, it's high-tech diamond. One of my favorite machines for sure. Smoothing out that bottom a little bit. Elapsed time so far, 15 minutes. Okay, been at it a while. Check it out. Starting to get flat. Still got some craters in it, but we're working our way. And that's what it takes when you're working this, guys, is you really got to work at it. Little bit at a time. Don't rush it, you know. Set that speed where it feels comfortable, where you're getting good action on the rock and it's starting to grind. Set that water drip just right. Here we go again. Up that video speed 5 times. If I'd let this go its entire length, it probably would have been just about an hour and 45 minutes. That's what it took, the entire duration from start to finish, not including camera setup and all that stuff, just the rock itself. But we've cut it all down to a fairly, okay, total elapsed time just on the 180 grit, 35 minutes. Looking pretty smooth there, looking pretty good. That's what you got to do, guys. Just keep working it and working it, looking at it. The nodule is telling me how to shape it. So I'm keeping this in mind as I do this. You know, in this particular case, I'm not going to draw a circle around it and try and make it a circle. I'm just going to let the rock tell me where it wants to be and how it wants to be shaped. Looking pretty good so far. Moving right along. Okay, back to it. A little faster this time. Video speed times 5. Working away at the bottom. Up there at the nose, you can see it needs some work. It needs some rounding off. The whole thing's still not quite the triangle that I think that we're headed towards. I think that's what the rock's telling me is, let's do a triangle. This, even when in its raw shape, as you guys saw, you know, it's still kind of look like a triangle, you know, roughly anyways. Now we're going to start working those edges, and that's the way to do it. One edge at a time, and be consistent when you do this, guys. You know, work it consistently, one thing at a time. If you're working the corners, then work the corners. If you're working the sides, work the sides. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Okay, we're starting to get a pretty good rounded look there, except for it's still kind of off. It's not quite symmetrical on the top there. Now we're starting to smooth out. There's a little bit of pitting left there from some of those deeper craters, but it's really starting to flatten out on the bottom. And there you can see on the sides too, you can see that fortification lines, which we don't want to lose. So total elapsed time for the 180 grit, 55 minutes, almost an hour, guys, on just the 180 grit to shape that thing and get it ready. The macro crystalline top is quite delicate, so let's keep that in mind. If you're working with a nodule, you have different types of microcrystalline structure in there. So that's why we're at 180, and that's why I started at 180. I didn't want to move faster with, say, 100 grit or 60 grit and try and, rush this thing, because I would have tore that top up. So now we're moving on, 240 grit. Yeah, looking pretty good. All right, moving on to 240 grit. Here we go. And you can see on the edge there, and I kind of put it in the light so you can see it. You can see that there's kind of a cavern almost of holes, craters, whatever you want to call them. And that's part of that is just the druzy starting to show, and part of it is existing. So as we peel down on that top, when you're working on a nodule, you want to keep in mind that those nodules have all kinds of, crystalline structures in them, and some of it will be revealed as you grind away. So the elapsed time for the 240 grit, 13 minutes. Now we're on to 600 grit. Woohoo! Looking pretty smooth there. All the way around. There's still a few scratches, but they're the scratches that 600 grit will take out. So it's something to keep in mind. You want to except we still got that big thing. So I think we're going to go right back to the 600 grit here just for a sec and work that one side, because it's still got kind of a crater almost there. But and you can see it fairly clearly. So I think we're going to go back to the 600 just for a second. And don't be afraid to do that. As you work on a particular rock or stone, agate or whatever, you're going to run into stuff that is like, oh, darn, oh, that's something I got to fix. And so in this case I do. So we're going to go back there to that 600 and work it just a little bit till we can kind of get that flush. Some of it will actually remain, because some of it is actually just druze wanting to shine through and be all crystally and pretty. Okay, after working this, as you can see, if I can get it clearer so you can see it, pretty smooth. There's still a couple of scratches on the bottom, but what you want to see here is you want to see a consistent polish across the surface that you're working, like this corner up here. Now I'm going to have to work that a little bit more, maybe the actual tip, but you want to see the same kind of consistent finish across the top, the bottom, the same kind of sheen too, on whatever kind of rock you're working on. Let's see if I can get that bottom. There is a couple of deeper scratches on the bottom. I don't think it's really anything to worry about, but maybe that one spot. Okay. Looking pretty good on the bottom there. It's got a nice little sort of pyramidal shape rounded off on the corners. I'm going to keep working that now, going up to, see? And you can still see those fortification lines. Those are going to be really pretty once we get done and it's all polished. You're going to just see that macro crystalline structure move into the micro crystalline structure, which is on the bottom. Pay particular attention though on uneven surfaces, such as around the corners, the back, the stuff. When you've got rounded areas, you got to work those areas the same that you work all the other stuff too. Ooh-wee. Now you can see there, it's actually now just druze pockets. And so there isn't really much I can do about it at this stage. I could go back and I could really seriously dig in, but that's probably just going to reveal more druze pockets. So when you're working with macro crystalline stuff like that, it's really, you know, at some point you just have to say, it's smooth enough, it feels good, I like it, I'm going to keep it. And actually, it'll actually start to shimmer and shine when light hits it when it's all done. You can see it there. But we're gonna just, we're not gonna put a whole lot of focus. I think we're just gonna polish from this point on. Now on to 3000 grit. So now we're starting to get to the serious polish stage. At 3000, you're really starting to get it smoothed out, all the final little scratches out of the way. And it's really important that you take a close look at your work as you're working the 3000. Really important. Because you want to see that consistent polished sheen completely all the way around it. You just keep working it and keep working it. Taking a look. Be sure and dry the stone. It becomes really important to see it dry.
Okay, then we'll just take a close look at it. It's going to take a lot less time. Now, I don't know if I can zoom in on that so you can see it, but you see the holes in there? You can see these little, those are actually druze pockets. These things have been uncovered in the polishing process. So I'm just going to leave them alone. They're nice and smooth. So I put my finger on them. They're super smooth. I don't know if I can get it clear enough and crisp enough, but they're super smooth, and they'll actually add to the overall shininess of this thing as you look down inside of it.
I'm going to also just let the comments play that I was making at the time. Because if you notice the sound on this thing, it does tend to start to diminish. It gets a lot flatter and not quite as grindy. And so on the polish stages, I did a bit of talking to kind of give you some clues on what some of the things you might want to look for when you get in this far down the road.
Okay, for demo purposes, we're on 14K. That's 14K. That's what all of this pink little diamond paste is right here, 14K. So we're going to start out, and we're going to kind of run it pretty much the same way we've been doing it all through this. A little bit on the bottom, sides. In this particular case, since I'm a little fresher on top with paste, I'm going to go ahead and start here. Here and here, because that's my top.
14K diamond paste, thanks to High Tech Diamond.
Now remember, when you're doing this, the stone will get hot. And we don't want it to get too hot.
Working the sides of the crown there. The crown is the top. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to work it the same way with each stage. In this case, you know, I started with the bottom, but now I'm in the polish stage, so I'm going to work all the stages in the polish stage the same way. I'm going to work the sides, the rounded corners, the crown, the top, And then I'm going to turn it over and work the bottom and work the edges up so that they're all nice and rounded and polished together. There you can see it's really starting to get some sheen to it now. 14K polish is great, but then we're going to move up to 50K, and that puts that final glassy look on it.
Corner right there a little bit. We're going to polish that up. Ultimately what you want to see is you want to see consistency, just like we have as we ground it, you know, began to polish it and work. You want to see a consistent sheen across the whole side. And although it looks really good right now, it really does. It's really starting to look really pretty. Once we get to the 50,000, then that'll be a kind of a different one. And then I'm just going to apply it. Last time, I'm going to just show you how this works. So we're going to do a little bit right here, well, if we can. And then kind of try and disperse this around the wheel a little bit. So far we've kind of stayed with the center of the wheel, so I'm going to move it around so we get our polish a little bit farther down on this, because I'm going to be working those sides. Then I'm going to pull back on that thing so I don't waste all this polish. Put the cap back on it, and we're almost ready to go. Now remember, you're not using any water when you're to this level of polish. You know, we're just polishing now. That's pure. This is the final stage. Here we go. Okay, like before, I'm going to start out on the top side. Like that. And I'm going to kind of let each side get a little bit of that 50K polish on there before I start really digging in. And then we're also going to put a little bit here on the bottom and start working that bottom a little bit. Each of the sides, because they're rounded.
Thing here with the 50K, you just got to cover all your points, double check, make sure you're getting that sheen you're looking for. But that's the whole trick here, is just, you know, that 180 grit. I mean, I spent almost an hour on 180 grit shaping the stone, but now I'm down. These are probably 12 to 13 minutes.
Work that crown a bit. In that trouble spot, which is kind of rounded and then it rounds over. Polish on the sides and on these corners. Work those really good. So they look really polished too. And so pretty quick here, we're going to end this thing, and I'm going to take it outside, and you can actually see what it looks like. It's pretty, man. Okay, let's take a excuse me, a preliminary look here and see. As you notice on this side, you know, these little druzy pockets have started to open up, and there's just really nothing I can do about that. I can't go back and start over here. But the shine and the sheen on these is pretty incredible. Let's see if I can move that light over just a little bit so you can see that. Pretty cool. When I'm all done, I'll take it outside so you can really get a look at it. Okay, so it's a little rainy out today, so we don't have a ton of sunshine, but sometimes that's helpful. You can see she's pretty shiny, but as you look into it, you see the depths of the different crystals and stuff, and I'll just kind of twist it back and forth so you can take a look. Not too bad. Perseverance and a lot of work. It's pretty good.